WCW NWO Thunder would release in January of 1999 and is based on the secondary show that WCW would air on Thursday nights. Think of it like their version of WWE SmackDown. However, January 1999 is a very interesting year for WCW, but for all the wrong reasons. They would end up losing their ratings war over the WWF, and even though the WCW product was actually okay at the time, WCW's main event scene was so toxically bad that it actually ruined all of their major shows. The year prior, WCW would release WCW Nitro for the N64 and PS1, based on their primary show of the same name. Ultimately though, the game would struggle to find a fan base due to the awkward controls and bad visuals. If you like this sort of video and want to see more video game reviews just like this, then please consider subscribing. I also do tend to get some little details wrong, so feel free to correct me in the comments and keep me right. With that being said though, Thunder did release the year after Nitro and tried to improve on that middling game. So let's have a look and see how it did. Playing this game is actually a really strange experience. You would expect that by 1999 would have just had a dedicated grapple button, but no. Thunder instead opts for a more kind of Mortal Kombat style control system. Combinations of buttons will trigger different moves, which are kind of more akin to something like Attitude or Warzone. Although honorable mention to being able to tie up with a circle button, as they almost got it right. But instead, you'll just find combos like up, triangle, triangle to do something as simple as a body slam. Oh, and by the way, this is the same for every character. So you get really limited player expression or decent representations of existing superstars since, well, everyone does the same shit. Yeah, okay, so look, the controls in this game really suck. Look, Warzone and Attitude had awkward control systems as well, but at least you could pause the game to review those controls, and you can't even do that here. So you have to consult the game manual. The control system in this game just really feels outdated as a result. As mentioned before, pressing circle you can kind of put yourself into a tie-up position, but this also seems to be broken. As if you hold it long enough, you can literally just siphon the opponent's health all the way down and win the match super easily. Well, quality control just wasn't exactly commonplace in WCW in terms of their TV product, so I mean it kind of tracks that their games seemingly also had no real QA testing. An important aspect of every wrestling game is how it looks and feels, and move animations, in my opinion, just really aren't that great. Every move, much like the whole game, just seems to run just a little too fast, which kind of makes the moves lack any real impact. And when you do land these moves, there's no real selling animation, so people just kind of lie there on the mat for a little bit after being hit. Finishers are decent enough, but that's not really going to save the game here. The game also seems to run at this really weird frame rate where, depending on the region, it seems to be about 25 or 30 FPS, but doesn't this game look really fast to you? Like, everything is just really sped up, and it looks really weird, in my eyes anyway. I mean, we could talk about this more in the graphics portion of the review, but I just wanted to highlight that it looks weird, right? Anyway, when you boot up the game for the first time, you will see a really well edited FMV full of real life footage, and honestly, this is kind of hype. I think maybe the last time we saw this kind of intro was in like WWE 12? These style of intros really need to make a comeback, as honestly they're just such a vibe. Another really nice addition is on the character screen, where if you press the circle button on any character, you will hear a very short FMV rant from that character, and man, this is super cool. Although some of the promos aren't very good, and the audio is maybe something to be desired, it's got a real charm to it.
Hey, wait a second. I know what you're thinking. You want to be me like everybody else. Forget about it. You don't have the mental skills or the dexterity. Go on, go pick somebody else. Pick Hogan or some, don't pick me. Move, go. Go.
But hey, look, this is the main menu for the game. What an absolute mess. Like, there's no categorization here. Everything's just here in a list. It's just a mess. It literally looks unfinished. I've made game menus like this in college using Unity, and this is just embarrassing. Especially since this isn't even their first game. It's a sequel, for God's sake. Anyways, as previously mentioned, this is a sequel to WCW Nitro, and as such, obviously it's expected that the team would need to iterate and build upon the work that they'd done in the previous game. Well, match-to-match gameplay is mostly unchanged. The menus also just look the same. I mean, we do have some new match types. The steel cage makes its debut here, and I guess it's okay, but why is it in an empty arena? Is no one buying tickets to cage matches these days? There's also a Battle Royal mode, which is basically a Royal Rumble, but by a non-copyright infringing name. Actually, a really nice detail in the Battle Royal is that players can actually leave the ring during the match to fight on the outside, which is something that games are yet to ever do. There's also tag matches, and for what it's worth, it's nice for variety, but by this point in time, developers hadn't really figured out how to make tag matches actually fun, and instead they just kind of drag out, and honestly, they're just more frustrating than fun. The roster here is also fairly decent. WCW Thunder boasts a roster of over 60 recognizable faces, such as Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Too Sweet Kevin Nash. But the full roster actually features over 128 characters, which is insane for a PS1 game. Well, that really begs the question though, are these extra characters really cool hidden gems? Well, not really. The vast majority of them are either developers or executives from Inland Productions or THQ. There are also some custom characters like a gorilla, or an astronaut, or a bee, but honestly none of these guys are really worth unlocking. So it's clear at this point that the game has already fallen short of the already low expectations, right? Well, let's analyze some of the graphics and presentation a little bit further. To be honest, the graphics in the game are actually really good, I think. There's a certain look and design here that I really like, and the character models are really recognizable and honestly much better texture-wise than anything that WWE were doing at that time. The camera also swings about in this really frantic nature, but it does showcase all sides of the arena, and everything is kind of modeled in 3D. Although I think the arenas do look a little small and very cramped. They did a fairly good job at recreating WCW's famous arenas like the Great American Bash and Starrcade. Even though these arenas do look fairly impressive, it's actually a shame that Thunder features no entrance animations of any kind. I'm sure it's quite the technical challenge to figure out how entrances would have worked, but honestly, I'm kind of bummed that this game doesn't have any. In their place, we do have a full screen excerpt from the Superstars Titantron, which by the way in WCW were called Turnertrons, which in hindsight is really petty and I kind of love it. WCW Thunder also features commentary from the legendary Tony Schiavone, where he will just occasionally call out moves, and that's kind of it. I get comments all the time saying that people don't like certain wrestling games because there's no commentary, but honestly, if all there was is Tony shouting occasional moves at me, then I just think it would be best to leave it out of the game altogether, and we could just rock out to some generic rock or electronic music, kind of like the WWE games you would do. While looking at the reviews for this game, IGN rated WCW Thunder a 6.6, which is honestly quite generous. They hated the combo system for pulling off simple moves, but did praise the game's overall presentation. GameSpot would give the game a 5.4 and likewise did praise the game for the graphics, but the gameplay ultimately does let it down. And even though this segment is called Legacy and Impact, WCW Thunder really has neither. I'm not convinced that this game has a diehard fanbase. Perhaps you could prove me wrong in the comment section, but I remember back in school that absolutely no one had this game. Hell, I think in my school that Backstage Assault might have been more popular than Thunder, and that's saying something. Okay, so my final verdict then is that Thunder is somewhat of an improvement over Nitro, but that's not really saying much. It's still a horrible game to play since the controls are terrible and the game runs at super speed. Considering that the gameplay is so mid, and then the graphics are somewhat passable, and there's no entrances, I actually think there's very little to actually enjoy about this experience. Now we do get to experience WCW as it was in late 1998 for what it's worth. This was when the company was failing, and this game in a way weirdly does represent that pretty well. Well, I would like to know what you think of WCW Thunder in the comments down below, and with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know your memories of WCW Thunder and Nitro in the comments, and subscribe for more wrestling game reviews and gameplay. Thank you very much for watching, have a great day, and bye for now.